Hey everybody, and welcome back. Boy, I tell you, we are having such a good time, and had just really great conversation during the break. And so, thank you so much for joining us again. We're here with Tony Buzbee, talking about his plans for Houston, District G, but for Houston and how this can sort of spill out into Texas. I gotta ask a question though, man, and forgive me for saying, and I know it's probably I'm just going to ask it, man. I've talked to a few of my neighbors, and there have been some developments within our district. One thing I know about people in our district is that we have big hearts. We want to help everybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it really is a fact. And I think it goes with not just people in the district, but people in Houston, and them beginning to understand who you really are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You got a chip on your shoulder for a reason, and it's to be a voice for the voiceless, and it's to be a voice for the silenced, and it's to help as many people as possibly can. But what I've found is that there are people that they haven't voted on it. They haven't, in some cases, found out sort of happenstance. There is a housing development, and I'm all for housing. Okay. I'm all for housing. There's a housing development for low, sometimes no income people in our district. There's some proposed by the freeway. They're building by the freeway. There's some inland into, off of Woodway on Sage, I've heard. Now, I'll be the first to tell you I don't know much about it. Tell us what's going on there, and how come people can't even vote on if they want. Look, everyone has a heart. They want to help people. We want to help people. But can we get a voice? What's going on?
And therein lies the problem. The public housing, of course, you can't be against public housing, and your point's well taken. But there's also, we got to be smart about how we do it. And, right now, as we speak, there's 3 projects that are being built right on the edge of the district. In fact, it's pretty dramatic. If you get a chance to go down Highway 6, where 6 meets Memorial, you can see 2 of the projects that are currently under construction. And the people that live there, and we're talking about people that live in relatively safe and secure housing additions. They're not gated or anything, but the homes there are somewhere between 500 to $1 million. These homes are homes that people have invested essentially their net worth in. They moved to that area so they could raise their families and be safe and have a solid investment. And the next thing they know, without any notice whatsoever, there's construction started on what appears to be apartment complexes, but they weren't really apartment complexes. They were public housing. And the only reason they even, some of the more active people in the community even found out about it is because they keep an eye on the permits that get approved in the city of Houston. And so there was one individual in particular who lives in the, I think it's Fleetwood, I think, or maybe it might be Marywood, but it's in that general area. If you know that part of Houston, West Houston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He noticed that there was a permit approved, and it was a public housing project, and his council member, and frankly, his council member, his commissioner, whomever represented him, state rep, none of them mentioned it to him. No, none of them said anything about it. And so he gathered a group of neighbors together and was trying to find out information, and went to his council member, and she, according to him, completely, he says, blew him off. I would say, a nicer way, rebuffed him, and said,
our current council member,
and she had no idea about it until one of the residents told her about it. And of course, by the time the permit's issued and the construction has begun, guess what? You're not done. It's done. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's some of these public housing projects that have to get approval from council. There's some that do not. Depends on where the money's coming from. And the council member's job is to be informed. The council member's job is to know what's going on before permits are issued, before permits are applied for. And we had a forum today where this particular individual that I'm talking about, who learned of this and took it to the current council member, she tried to make the case that, well, once I found out about it, I started looking into it, and I posted something on my website 6 weeks later, and that was her action. That didn't actually make him very happy. And he made the whole group understand that he was the only one that found out about it, and he found out about it after the permit had been approved. And by that point, it was too late, and she had basically been asleep at the switch. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is, first off, when you talk about public housing, why would you ever situate public housing at the far reach of the city? That is, out by Highway 6. The people that are going to benefit from public housing probably need other services, would be entitled to other services, would qualify for other services, and there's none of those services there. There's none there. Mm-hmm. So commonsensically, why would you place public housing in those areas? Number two, when you place public housing in areas that are residential areas, single family homes that are $500 to $1 million, you're commonsensically going to drive down property values. You're going to overload the schools. You're going to impact drainage. You're going to impact infrastructure. You're going to make, all of the things that we are concerned about are going to be worse. And you're not going to get more police. You're not going to get more police there. You're going to get more crime. You're not going to get more police. And you got to have. I really believe that there are ways that you can argue in a passionate way, but compassionate way, to place these projects, which I'm not against. I just think we need to put them in places where it's smart to put them. And so, how about in a way? How about looking at
I'll go back to Westerland and Westheimer on those people, those residents, their water bill is skyrocketing because of that leak. You're telling me you're going to build a whole housing development and can't fix a water main or water issue?
And you know what's more frustrating? And that's a great point. What's more frustrating is after Harvey, people waited for weeks.
Oh man, come on.
And weeks to get a permit approved so they can rebuild their house. And that's yet these projects were approved, and I don't want to say under the cover of night, but with no public forum. Nobody told anybody about anything, and their permits got approved lickety split. Whereas the same people who live literally now in the shadow, because we're talking about this individual that I'm thinking about right now, who's going to do an event for me next Saturday. Mm-hmm. He has this, his entire net worth. He's an engineer. Is in this home.
In his home.
Yeah, and if you look, he had this nice backyard that you could tell he spent hours upon hours making nice for to entertain guests and family. And when you sit in his backyard, you see a 4- or 5-story public housing project right behind his house.
Well, how dare him complain, Mr. Buzbee? How dare he complain with his with his beautiful backyard? I just can't believe it. Unbelievable. Brother, I am it's shocking. And again, it's not about not being compassionate.
Not at all.
It's not about that at all. It's about, you want to set anything up for success. You want to set a person up for success. And we're going to get to that, when we talk about career, because this is a career show. So we're going to talk about that. You want to do everything you can to set people up I love that you had an Instagram post and you flat out said it. This is our home.
Yeah.
This is our home. And it's I'll tell you what it feels like. And and I don't know if people will tell you this is what it feels like, because, pride is pride. But it feels like this. It feels like you're getting patted on the head and you say, oh, that's okay. Just keep sending your money. We're fine. Don't worry about it. We know better.
Yeah, we know better than you. But look, don't you forget to pay your tax bill.
Don't you forget that.
We will find you.
Oh, not only will we find you.
We may not show up and fix the water main break.
But we're going to show up for that money.
We won't fix that pothole in front of your house that you blow your tire out. And no, we won't respond to somebody breaks into your home. We may or we may not respond. You may have to call us 4 or 5 times, and we may not even respond. Now, if your car gets broken into, I'm just going to tell you up front, we're not going to respond. We're not going to respond. But if you fail to pay your tax bill, by golly, we're going to respond. You'll hear from us.
That's right.
That's how it is.
Well, and you know, I'd love to get your thoughts on that, on this. I am a proponent of the LTC. I really am. I love constitutional carry, but I think constitutional carry carries with it a significant amount of risk to the person because they're not educated, and they, you know, maybe they know how to handle their firearm, maybe they don't, but at the end of the day, they don't know. You know, they don't know, you know, if somebody's breaking into your car, you do not have the right to shoot them, but as they're breaking into your car, if you can drive in it or on it, it's off limits, including your garage, unless they come at you. You're not going to know that unless you take your classes, unless you study. In the climate we're in, and I'm just going to ask you, you think the citizens need to be more firearm? Look, man, you think they need to get their LTC?
I think people need to be educated, no doubt about it. I mean, people have to be educated. I mean, you know, I have the luxury of you know, I got my first shotgun when I was 4. You know, I killed my first squirrel when I was 5. You know, my stock was too long, and every time I shot at a squirrel, it bloodied my nose. But I kept shooting it. And you know, all of my kids, I've taught how to handle gun and how to treat guns and all the basic rules of gun ownership. And you know, I have a gun like literally right here, right now, by my knee, and I have a gun in all of my cars. Sure. So, but do I believe in gun education? 100%, because the last thing there's nothing. My dad used to say, there's nothing worse than an unloaded gun or a dull knife. And he would say you hurt yourself with a dull knife and you have an unloaded gun, somebody's going to take it away from you.
That's
but
right.
I would add to that a corollary. You can be a bigger danger to yourself
if you're not educated.
You're not educated. And so that's incredibly important that people that feel the confidence and the necessity to carry a weapon, that they be educated 100%.
And so when we're talking about where money can be allocated to, you know, I don't know, maybe that's an idea, to where if we're in a situation that we're in right now, to where people are actually having to police their own communities in some way, shape, or form, you know, be educated about it. And I'm not saying that's what you're advocating, but that's what I'm saying as a citizen, you know, with the safety concerns, with all the things that we've been talking about. Some of those things are a concern for people, for my neighbors. I will tell you that right now, people in my neighborhood. And I've convinced a lot of people to go get their LTC and to know the law and to know how to handle their weapon. And I'm telling you, Tony, there's people that, you know, I grew up around guns too. But there are people, I think primarily because some of them aren't, you know, I don't know, but they've never handled a weapon before. You know, going out and buying them because they need to feel safe. And it's like, no, you gotta get educated on that. So, you know,
for your own protection, really, for your own protection,
you know. And so instead of lamps, maybe we can, you know, that can be a part of education that we can look at, you know, as a city and as a community.
Let me drop this on you. I mean, one of the things that I learned in the mayor's race is if you ask people for help, they usually will give it to you. The thing about Houston is that people are very generous. They're very generous with their knowledge and their time. And, you know, if you were in a community and you had people who were concerned about their safety, and you organized your community in such a way that you had people that said, look, I want to just have some gun courses for you. I want to, you know, let's, you know, you don't have to carry a gun, but if you're thinking about doing that, let's have some courses. There are people that volunteer to do that for absolutely free. And the same is true. I mean, just because there's people that, you know, people that own guns and are passionate about that, you know, they're willing to share that with others and explain, and because it makes it better for all of us. The same is true pretty much for anything, whether it be drainage, whether it be road repair, whatever these issues,
anything.
These issues that we face, you know, we're always thinking about, well, how much money do we have to allocate? You know, that's what government people think. That's what politicians think. Sometimes I think we need to take a step back and say, okay, who are the people that build the most things in this city? Who are the people that that have that kind of expertise? Who are the people that would be willing to share with us? Let's show them, here's the way we've been doing it, and have them talk to us about a better way to do it. Same with permitting, as an example, the city permitting process. There are people that have to navigate that on a daily basis that if you sat and listened to them, could tell you, not give everybody a permit that asks for one, but here's the way to do it in such a way that it makes sense. There are people that, this is the way, when I try a lawsuit, I'm basically learning an expertise of whatever, this last one I learned, I became an expert in impeachment, as an example. But when I try a refinery case and there's been a big explosion, I kind of become, for a short amount of time, an expert in refinery operations. And people teach me these things, and I learn. And there are people across the city, and especially when I ran for mayor, who came to me and said, you know what, I don't have a dog in the fight. It's not like I'm trying to get projects approved, but I'm willing, because I have this experience, to be part of a group, to do a performance audit of the way we do this discrete task in the city of Houston and make recommendations about how we can do it better. I don't have anything to gain other than I want the city to work the right way. We have incredible resources here that no one makes any effort to tap into. And government is not, I don't want to, sound like a crazy libertarian, but the truth is government doesn't always have the answer. And there are people that can help us get the right answer. And sometimes just small tweaks can make things work a lot better. And when we think about, just basic road maintenance, we all think, well, that should be easy. That should be easy. There should be a plan, and there should be a scheduled maintenance, and there should be a 5-year plan. Guess what? There's not. And it just blows your mind. I mean, in your business, every year you sit down, and like my real estate business, every year I bring all my property managers in and I say, okay, which properties are performing, which properties are not, what kind of maintenance do we expect, blah, blah, blah. And we go through it and we make a plan, and then we execute. And then when somebody comes back and something pops up that we didn't know about or we didn't think about, well, the first question is, okay, what in our process made it such that we didn't think about or know about that? Because we need to fix that first, because that's an overarching problem. But otherwise, execute. We don't do that in the city of Houston. There used to be when people went into politics, they did so after they'd had a distinguished type career, after they'd been in their career, they'd been successful in their career, and they wanted to go into politics, not so that, partisanship, but they wanted to give back and make use of the experience that they have. That's not what we have anymore. What we have now is people that are going into politics because they don't have anything else better to do, or it's the best and highest use of their time. In other words, this is where they can make the most money they can make, which is a sad state of affairs. We have people, when you run for office to be somebody, instead of running for office to get something done, there's the problem. And if you look at, and without trying to criticize individuals, but you look at the politicians that we have, that just where we are now, that starting at every level, what you see is people that they've made their career of this. What you don't see is the way it used to be in Houston. What made Houston work and what made it great, and how you grew a city of this size out of basically a swamp, a bayou, is you had distinguished, accomplished business people that were accomplished in their sphere, that they said, let's collectively use our collective experience and wisdom to make the city work for us, to make things work. That's how it used to be. Wow. Unfortunately, now it's not like that. Now it's somebody who has worked. I mean, just as an example of my opponent, she's never done a job that wasn't a government job. Never. And so she worked in the Montgomery County DA's office from the minute she got out of law school. I'm not saying that's not a worthy thing, but I can tell you, when you come out of law school, the people at the very bottom of the class go there. Okay, because that's the only job that's available. I'm just going to be honest about it. That's the truth. Sure. I'm not suggesting, I don't know where she went to Oklahoma Law School. I don't know how she did, but my suggestion here is that government no longer attracts people that have been successful in their occupation. Most people that have been successful, the last thing they want is to be engaged in anything political. They don't want to be involved in it because it's nasty. You get called names. You know how it is. It's just nasty. Yeah. And so what you end up getting, the people that are running the show are people that could that if they went to a, first off, they would never be able to get into most of the high performing occupations, and they would never be able to get into a high performing segment of that occupation. And so they've never built anything. They've never made payroll. They've never actually had to budget. They've never actually fixed anything. They've never had to deal with budget shortfalls and make corrections. They've never had to do any of those things that we have to do in business. They never had to do it. But yet we put them in there as the duty experts in government. And there's a problem. Right. And that's the problem we have. And if you look at whether it's the judiciary, if you look at who's running for judge, it's not the people at the top of their profession who have distinguished themselves, who have won accolades and awards and are lauded for all their experience and all the great trials they've had. No, it's not those folks. Those folks don't want anything to do with being a judge. It's the people that anyway, it's not those people. And then
I understand.
And then when you talk about city council, or you talk about state rep, or you talk about some of these other positions, it's typically, there's exceptions to every rule, but it's typically people who see government as a means to some end that they have in their mind, not as a way to go in there and do some fixing and make the city or the county or the state work the way it should work.
So funny you're saying that, man. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, and the unfortunate thing about it is that's the typical case. There are exceptions of people that get in there and realize they don't have that experience and realize they don't have that in their bandwidth,
right.
And they listen and they're receptive and they try to learn and they tap into people that they know have that kind of wisdom or have that skill set. Unfortunately, there's a lot.
That's a double-edged sword, though, sometimes, because it all depends on who's doing the talking and how you're doing the listening,
and who's paying the freight.
Right.
And so but the flip side of that is you see some people that are in government and they're like, I'm the council person or I'm the commissioner and I know best. And right. the truth is, best. Your job is, like, say, you're a county commissioner. You're responsible for roads. You're responsible for a incredibly large infrastructure. You don't have day one's experience doing any of that. Not day one experience doing that outside of being, you ran for office. Not one day of experience, and you're basically learning on the job, and you're probably not learning it very well.
I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say, throughout the past few months, talking to folks that, from the past that have worked within government or within committees or, what would you call it? State committees, mm-hmm. right? For political parties and on both sides, Yeah. And it's funny to hear them because they sound like everything you just said, they're saying.
Yeah.
They're saying that what they're upset about is that the things that they worked for and the things that they really believed in. I mean, you got to look at it this way. I got a friend of mine. He's a Texas state rep in Katy, I guess in Spring now too. Great guy. And, like, they're not in it for the money. There's no money there. They make the same amount as, what was it? A teacher made in 1965, something like that. You know what I mean? He was a lawyer and all this. Good guy, really, really good guy. But at its very core, you got people that really worked hard, that dedicated their lives to the making this swamp something. I remember there's a really cool little pub down on what is it? Fountain View in San Felipe, right by the HEB. And so there was some construction going on that road. And so I remember a friend of mine owns a family. They own this isn't a plug, but if you want a great burger, go to Cliff's. I'll tell you that right now. Oh my God, these people know how to do something with a slab of meat. Let me tell you. But we'd go in there and there would be somebody in there and they would be talking, and they had to shut the traffic down. They had to redirect traffic so you could get into where you needed to go.
Yeah.
And the consensus was, they're doing that so Turner can say he fixed the road. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how I vote or what party I belong to. That shouldn't be something somebody says.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, as a Houstonian, it hurt my heart to hear it. Because that's a hell of an accusation, really, if you think about it from a citizen point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think everything you're saying is spot on. I think we have to get back to that. We have to get back to, even as a citizenry, I think we have to get back to service. I put a TikTok out the other day, and I was just walking around, and I noticed that people don't wave much anymore. You know what I mean? Like, one thing about when I moved to Texas, I just always loved is that, for one, don't ask somebody how they're doing. If you're in line at HEB or Randall's, don't ask anybody how they're doing. I'll tell you why, because you will get the story.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared to hear it, then don't ask the question. That's number one. But that's right. That's right. Well, my wife, she just got, she had that surgery, and, I tell you, when we lost Spreckles, Spreckles was such a great dog, and, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so great. But you always made a friend, and really, if you look at the history of Texas, I mean, my God, this is a place of second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth chances. This is where people rebuild themselves. This is where people have an opportunity. And I still believe that there's not another place on this planet like Texas that you can do anything here, And so what I noticed is that people, they're not waving. Somebody drives in the car, you wave at them. For years, people would wave back. I think what you're saying is if we can mobilize the citizenry along with everybody else, well, we have a fighting shot at making this district be the role model for the rest of the city.
Totally agree. And I know the resources are here, and I know the people are here, and I know they would, if asked, and they would help. And that's one thing I always say to groups that I speak to is like, look, anybody that claims they know all the answers is a fool.
Right.
I will never know all the answers, but one thing I do is I know how to go find them. And part of those answers are usually sitting in the crowd that I'm talking to.
Tony, we got one more break we're going to come up on. We're going a little bit longer, if that's okay with you. But you got to come back. I'm sorry. You have to come back. But here, one more break. And then, so stick around. In this next segment, we're going to keep talking, but Tony, I'm going to ask you, give us some bullet points on how somebody can have a successful career. All right. And with that, we'll be right back.
White Husky Films. Dream, create, record. We create ads and promos for your business. We can promote your video on television, Facebook, YouTube, Hulu, and more. We do a full Google SEO analysis for you with any plan. Call us today at 305-744-1444 or visit our website at whitehuskyfilms.com. White Husky Films.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Hey, if you like Work Your Career Wednesday and want to be notified every single time we have a new episode, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Smash it. Get a hammer and get it. And
Yeah, that's fine.
Too much?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I love it. People want.
Do you hear Steven in the background? I was just making sure I'm going to be okay. But get that notification going. And hey, we will be letting you know, or I guess YouTube will be letting you know, when the next Work Your Career Wednesday is on. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Man, ding it, ring it, sling it, and bing it. All right? And we will see you soon. Work Your Career Wednesday. Oh, great. I'm glad you stopped by. Be sure to get that subscription bell, and I'll see you there.